Time for Media Watch now. James is with us here on set. James, you've been looking at the trial of Hissène Habré. We were just talking about it, in fact, in the news. How it's playing out on social media and also, of course, on the French and African press.
That's right, Stuart. A lot of people tweeting from the trial, indeed, in Dakar. A number of them working for Human Rights Watch, and Human Rights Watch was central in putting together the case against Habré. And you can see here Thomas Fessé. If people are looking to get more information on this, he is tweeting from the trial. That is the image that I suppose has become emblematic of how things went today. He refused to participate. He was shouting. He had to be dragged into the courtroom, and then he was dragged out. And there's even a quote there from Thomas Fessé of what he said: "Down with imperialists. It is a farce by rotten Senegalese politicians, African traitors, valet of America." So that's his perception of how this trial is going. But for cartoonists, this isn't about being a valet of America or being a traitor. This is about Africa, an African justice authority judging one of its own dictators. This is the occasion. This is an opportunity to prove that I am capable of judging my dictators. That is, I suppose, African justice being symbolised in that cartoon. Yeah. Another cartoon here by a half French, half Burkinabe cartoonist, Glaise, shows the man in question with his hands covering his face, not wanting to see the victims of his regime. Indeed, some 40,000 victims were tortured and killed during the time that he governed. And indeed, a lot of them have been writing in the African press over the last number of weeks. Hissène Habré, are you afraid of us? Now, that is the president of the Association of Victims of Hissène Habré, who wrote an open letter to him. And indeed, it does seem that he doesn't want to have anything. He is, in figure, I suppose, at least metaphorically speaking, covering his face, as that particular cartoon portrays. One victim of his regime, known by the name Rose, is getting a lot of coverage in the press as well, Stuart. She was detained between 1984 and 1986. Human Rights Watch came across thousands of documents in the secret police headquarters, and they pieced together her story over the 3 years in which she was held, and it has actually become a half-hour documentary available on YouTube, the story of Rose. She's become, I suppose, one of the symbols of his regime, of the tortures aspect of it.
And another angle of the coverage, particularly, I suppose, here in the West, is the extent to which Western leaders of the time supported his regime.
That's right. I suppose it's only coming to light now, well, to broader public attention in more recent times. But he's known as the African Pinochet by some headlines, and indeed a lot of support from Western leaders, as this headline in Le Monde says: "Torturer and friend of the West." Indeed, François Mitterrand, who was president of France for much of the time that he was in power, in fact, was very much supportive. There was a fear at the time that Muammar Gaddafi in Libya would try to I suppose, take over lands in the north of Chad, and both France and the US, you can see there Ronald Reagan photographed with him, gave support to ensure that wouldn't happen. And indeed, this article in the Senegalese press, in the Chadian press rather, points out that France is supporting and quite happy with the opening of this trial. Yet, in fact, the foreign minister, Laurent Fabius, was François Mitterrand's prime minister at the time in the 1980s, and France, I suppose you could say, turned a blind eye to some of the practices of Habré's regime at that time.
OK, that's Hissène Habré. I knew James would pick this next one. It's really kind of the image of the day, isn't it?
It is.
FIFA President Sepp Blatter being showered with banknotes.
They say a picture can speak 1,000 words. Now, yes. I suppose this one certainly does.
It's like he's won a game show, isn't it?
Indeed, or he's in a gangster video or something like that. This is Simon Brodkin, who interrupted his speech during a FIFA press conference to throw a wad of fake dollars up into the air. And it was a moment that was over very quickly, but immortalised now, as was the idea, of course, in photo form. There he is with his press card, this particular comic. And what he said as he threw the money into the air is, "This is for North Korea in 2026. In other words, another corrupt or bought bid. You can see people on social media certainly riffing on it there. Sepp Blatter has just dropped the hottest mixtape of 2015, and there he is being showered in cash with a golden pistol, etc. Another person commenting on it on social media: "The Godfather, he should be used to having money thrown at him." So I suppose that gangster type imagery very much coming through in the comments online. FIFA conference delayed as Sepp Blatter crawls under the table, Stuart, to pick up the money. He didn't actually do that, and the money wasn't real anyway.
It'd be good if he had. That would be an even better image. Perhaps.
That's right. Now, my favourite element in all this is this particular vine. I think it needs a little bit of sound. Let's take a listen.
Dollar, dollar. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money.
There you go. A picture can speak 1,000 words, but sometimes a vine will speak a few more. So a lot of people saying that these sort of protest actions, etc., are actually quite important in terms of drawing attention to corruption in general, and also, I suppose, finding an image that matches the public impression. Certainly very unpopular these days. FIFA President Sepp Blatter.
Certainly wouldn't have got nearly so much coverage had it not been for that.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the rest of the press conference kind of got lost.
Exactly. Yeah.
In that moment.
James, thank you very much. James
Thanks, Stuart.
with Media Watch here on France 24.